Terry, thank you so much for joining me here today on the Cut to the Deal podcast, where we talk about the business side of the film industry. And we really try to answer one simple question, which is how can filmmakers fund, produce, and distribute profitable indie feature films? And I really wanted to talk to you because of the success of your last feature film. So I really want to pick your brains today about how you produced it, how you gone about distributing it, marketing it, and what kind of success it had in the marketplace in the last couple of months. But before we dive into that, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your past experience, and what you're currently doing?
Yes, I didn't start as a filmmaker until just a few years ago. I've spent my life as an engineer and I've built my own company up. And it's a company that manufactures and sells specialist inspection equipment, security equipment to police and government organizations. And in the last couple of years, um, we even manufacture an emergency shelter or bunker air filter system, which we sell quite a lot of to the US and increasingly in the UK now, just to the emergency prepper kind of market. And so I've got a lot of experience from electrical engineering and mechanical engineering, and then building the business. And in the last few years, I've been in a position to start making a film, and that's how it's kind of come about, really. Um,
Okay.
Thanks for having me.
Super interesting. So can you tell us a little bit about this? First of all, can you tell us why you transitioned into filmmaking? So a completely different career. Why did you decide to make a film?
Well, I've actually not given up my day job because I still run the company that you see behind me here. This is a small family company that I run here in Gloucester in the UK, and it's been going for 15 years. And yeah, because we are operating in the security field and the security market with our specialist products that we make, and we're such a small company, I'm able to design and develop very niche products, the little niche applications, kind of higher value, low volume stuff. So, with that in mind, I was able to develop a bunker air filter, which can be used by DIY type guys to put in their emergency shelters. Okay, and that was since 2022 when um, the Ukraine war was basically in full effect, and it made me think. This is quite a serious situation, and there's also a gap in the market for something that emergency preppers can use to bring clean air into their shelters. So, having already a love for making videos, not films, but videos, and particularly video editing, I love the whole process of chipping away, sculpting at video, getting it down to what I wanted. And I always liked that. And I always had a passion for creative writing in the past as well. And I tried to write a book a decade or so ago. And I don't think that's where I was creatively. And it wasn't until recently I wanted to depict a scenario where my product, the air filter system, is actually used in real life. So that scenario of an attack on the United Kingdom got me gathering preparation equipment and actually putting it together and thinking, I need to write this. So I started writing a script, and that's how this all kind of begun. And I ended up becoming essentially a small production company, because the film that I've made, The Days Ahead, started with a film about using this bunker air filter in a shelter, and was essentially, I'm not. It's time to be a bit honest here. It was a glorified product video, which I paid for with this company. And it went from being a small product video to being a half an hour long film where I hired a fully professional cast and crew. And before I knew it, I was in this kind of snowball effect. And once you're doing it, you're doing it. And you know what it's like. Once you start making a film, you have to be all in. And if you're not all in, you're not going to manage it. And so that's how I ended up starting to make films. My first film, my first short, was essentially a short, sharp learning curve, and it was like a filmmaking course, an intensive filmmaking course for me. So that when I made my second short and then the third, I was just gaining experience every time. And the more crew you know, the more crew they know, and you've got everyone for everything in the end. And before you know it, hey, you know how to make films, and it's kind of as simple as that, really. But that's how I arrived at where I am today.
Well, it's interesting because where you arrived today is making a feature film and
Yeah.
distributing that feature film. I can't tell you how many filmmakers I meet on a weekly basis who have been making short films for the last 20 years and still haven't transitioned into feature films.
Yeah.
And I think the main thing is they don't quite know how to get funding for it. They can't self-finance it, and usually they can't get the funding because they don't quite understand the distribution,
Mm.
which is something that we can talk about. So, tell me a little bit about this feature film. How you went about going, developing that, and perhaps if you can talk a little bit about how you funded it as well, if it was self-financed or if you went down any kind of funding routes.
It was financed by my own company. Being a company owner and it's such a small company, I can do what I want. I have that luxury. And as I've been building this up for the last 15 years based on a whole life of engineering and manufacturing experience, um, I, I, I got myself into a position where I was able to fund that initial short film. And I have to say, I spent too much money making it because I was also learning at the same time, you know? So that was paid for by the company. And that was enough money as it was. But then I became hooked. I had the filmmaking bug. I wanted to make another film. And then I realized I needed to make a third film because only then would I have a feature length film. And I think what's made it easier for me to do this rather than just make some shorts and never do anything with them is because of running a business. And I very quickly realized that managing a film project, writing a script, casting for it, the whole process of shooting and the shoot schedule and post production is just no different to running the business that I already run. So it made it so much easier to make this film, knowing that all of the business elements of it I already do anyway. So I think that with a lot of short filmmakers, they may have this brilliant creative talent and lots of skill and make a beautiful short film, but they then have to back it up with like everything else that's required to produce and distribute, a feature length film. And that's how I did it really.
So just to clarify, you made three short films and then you made a separate feature film, or is the feature film a combination of the three
No,
shorts?
no, the feature film is a combination of the three shorts. Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yes.
Okay, because as you know, we spoke about just now. I'm sort of currently distributing short film anthologies, but those are anthologies of 5 short films or 6 short films by
Yes.
different directors and filmmakers. But this feature film that you put together, is it a block of one short, another short, and a third one, or did you intertwine the different stories?
Do you know that's the most interesting part about the story of The Days Ahead? It didn't start with the intention of making a 3 film anthology. It was just one film, half an hour long film called Prepared, about a dad who was a prepper and he has a lot of prepping equipment. And when the UK is attacked, he's in a position to create a safe room in his house and protect his wife and daughter. That was all it was about to start with. Um, Once we finished shooting, we were all having a dinner with the cast and crew, and one of our cast members said, "Why don't you make Prepared 2, really prepared?" And we laughed and we said, "How about Prepared 3, not prepared at all?" And we laughed, and I just thought nothing of it actually, and I forgot about it for quite a few months. And then later on, I had a meeting with some new associates, which are film producers, they suggested perhaps you can hand over your initial film to us and we'll put it with another film of ours and we'll make an anthology. And I thought, oh, well, this is really, this has thrown a spanner in the works. And I thought, but that's a good spanner. That's a great idea. And then I went off and thought, well, I've always wanted to make a film about a guy in a bunker underground as well. So why don't I write that? And after I wrote the first 2 films, um, one was essentially fairly prepared, a dad looking after his family, and the underground bunker film was really prepared. Somebody who has the ultimate level of preparedness in this country anyway. And then I thought, well, it's still, what have we got? We've got about 50 minutes here, and I thought to have a balanced anthology, we're going to have 3 films. You're going to have exactly what we joked about months ago: prepared, not prepared at all, really prepared. And so that's how those three films came about. And I thought, hang about, this is a balanced anthology now, because we have to offer the viewer all perspectives. So you can't make a film about somebody who's really, really prepared and a film about someone who's prepared in their house without including a film about all of those that are not prepared, which are actually the majority of people, really. So I had to then make a film about a group of office co-workers that were trapped in an office when the UK is attacked, and none of them made it home, and their windows blow out, and they all get radiation sickness, and it doesn't go well for them at all. So that way, I've given all three perspectives and covered all bases. And I also thought this is quite a clever idea, because you're going to get people that, with anthologies, you're always going to get people that like one but don't like the others. Or say this one was crap, this one's terrible, but this one was quite good. And I thought, well, if I have these three separate films about three different perspectives, then I could hopefully keep everybody happy. And so that's exactly what happens. Many people said, oh, I relate to the middle film because I'm also a prepper and I will look after my family. And so I relate to this most closely. But I don't like the first film. And other people said, I didn't like the first film or the second film, but the last one was all right. So it was my plan was working. I was satisfying a range of viewers.
I love that. And I love that because I think there's so many short filmmakers out there who might suddenly feel inspired and go, wait a second, I've got two shorts that already work quite well together. If I just make a third one, I'll have a feature film. And that feature film can potentially actually get distribution and
Yes.
make some money. Um, so let's talk a little bit about that part. So once the film was finished and you had kind of all three parts and you had that finished feature film, what did you do next? Did you explore the film festival circuit? Did you go straight to try and, self-distribute or get traditional distribution? What was the next step?
Well, the first film I made, called Prepared, which is essentially the middle film in the days ahead, I did enter into a lot of film festivals, and I had great results. I had some screenings, and I had even won some awards. Best short to best first film, and I had quite a lot of laurels there for that first film. But when it came to make the second and third film, I didn't really pursue film festivals for those, because I was so far down the road that I didn't want to waste any more time, because I was making a film about war and about the heightening security situation in the world and UK being attacked. I wanted to get this made before either somebody else did and released before somebody else did, or before it actually happened in reality. so, so I didn't want to waste more time on festivals for the other two films, um, and so I just went straight to putting them all together. But when it came to distribution, I did a lot of research. I took a lot of advice from associates who already have a movie on Amazon Prime, and they are with IndieRights. And I also watched a lot of videos about IndieRights, about Film Hub, about all kinds of other ways of getting my film distributed. And it seems to be quite a simple decision for me. Um, I like the sound of 20%. Because I have dealers around the world for my products, and the standard dealer discount is 20%. So having a film distributor that could get my film on all of the right platforms that took a straight 20%, that worked for me. It was the same as my existing business operates with my dealers around the world. So Indie Rights or Film Hub was then the question about which way to go, who to approach. And I did approach Indie Rights in the end, knowing that I have associates here in the UK who have a movie with them. And Indie Rights have been very good for them. And I realized there were limitations on what I could do myself. Initially, I thought I could just, you know, submit my film to Amazon Prime. But then I realized it never would be included with Prime if I self submitted that film. As I understood it, it could only ever be on TVOD if I submitted it myself, and would never be on included with Prime. So that's what made me think, okay, that's serious limitations there. And if I did self-submit the film to Amazon, then I think that would hamper my chances of doing anything else with it, to the best of my research. So I thought, let's not do that. Let's speak to Indie Rights. let's submit my film to them and see what they think. And I did, and they said, great, yeah, we'll help you distribute this. And we went from there. I then posted my drive with everything on it, which I realized, obviously, it's a lot of work putting a drive together with all of your quality controllable files. And so it's another thing which is probably quite daunting for certain filmmakers. They get to this stage and think, oh no, is it the right file type? How am I going to get the audio right? I know there has to be Apple ProRes 422, and it has to be true stereo, 2-channel stereo, and they might not, it's quite a lot to actually
Yeah.
put it all together and pull that together. Now, my associates that already had a film out on Amazon Prime and Tubi, they were quite surprised at how quickly I did get that together. They told me it was ambitious to release by the date I wanted to release, and I said, "Oh no, no, I'm doing this.
And you
I
know what?
am going to get this together and distribute it."
I'd love to talk about that timeline in a second. Just to sort of go back a step and explain to everyone listening who might not know too much about IndieRights or Film Hub. IndieRights is a more traditional film distributor that takes your film, they put it onto platforms, but they also market your film for you to an extent and so on. Whereas Film Hub is more of an aggregator. They will not do any marketing for your film. Their only job is to put your film onto various platforms such as Tubi, such as Amazon. And the main reason why those two are usually compared together is because they both take a 20% cut of the sales of your film. And although things have changed very recently in Film Hub in the last month or two, before that, they both didn't take any upfront payments. Whereas with most distributors, they will take a percentage, but they will also take a marketing expense. So, for example, the first $1,000, $5,000, $25,000 sometimes even will go directly to the distributor before you start collecting money. Whereas IndieRights is really, really famous for the fact that they're one of the only distributors that I know of that do not charge any marketing expenses. So from the first dollar that your film makes, you will get 80% of that revenue. That's really kind of unheard of in the distribution world. Film Hub sort of does the same, but they now charge you a fee for a QC. So
Yes.
that's why those two are usually the two options that indie filmmakers like to go for. And can you tell us a little bit about the timeline? So you submitted the film. Can you tell us in how long did they get back to you saying yes? How long it took you to send that hard drive? And from the day that you sent the hard drive or that they received the hard drive, how long before the film was released on the first platform?
Well, I'll start with the release date. It was released, I think, on the 10th of August, 2025, and I initially submitted to them, to IndieRights, I think in the start of July, and then I had 30 days to after they accepted the film. I had 30 days to get this drive together and get the film QC'd. So I did get that together, sent it to them, and by the end of August, they had everything they needed. And it was actually very quick. It was quicker than I thought. There was just a few days later, they said, "Great, we've checked everything, and congratulations with your quality control. It's passed." And I thought, "Phew, that's great. That was a big relief." And as I understood, if I were to be lucky, it would be released by the middle of August. And I thought, well, that would be great. The mid to late August would be amazing. And to my pleasant surprise, it just appeared on the 10th of August, and it was great. It was a great moment to see that it was there. And so it's quicker than I thought. Quicker than I thought. But as long as you get your drive together, I imagine for a lot of people, once IndieRights accept your film and say, "Okay, right, we're giving you 30 days to put your drive together." I expect they've had a lot of instances of receiving the hard drive with files on it which don't work and it doesn't pass QC. And if that happens, they have to reject the whole drive. So if there's one thing wrong with your pack of files, the whole drive gets rejected, and you have to send another one with everything correct. So uh, for a lot of people, I imagine they have issues. So they'll be having to resubmit their drive before they get to a point where they've passed QC. I was lucky. I checked everything the best I could, and I named the files exactly how they'd like them to be named. Because obviously, if they receive a hard drive and it's got a load of files on it, um, they're going to spend a lot of time trying to work out what is what. But they have quite simple file naming procedures. So if you just read them properly and name your files exactly how they want you to name them, then that really increases your chances of passing
Hmm.
QC.
Interesting. And, we don't have to dive into all of the details of everything that you need to submit because actually IndieRights has a pretty comprehensive document on their website
Yes,
that
I do.
everyone can check out, which tells you exactly what you need to submit. But, in generally speaking, it's you have to submit the film, the trailer in certain files. You need to have closed captions professionally done.
Yes.
You need to have various different poster sizes, things like that, music cue sheets, etc. Now, there is things that you have to submit, and then there is passing quality control. And then there is submitting documents that are actually marketable. So let's talk a little bit about perhaps the poster and the trailer. They're the first elements that people see when they decide whether to watch your film or not. So tell me a little bit. I mean, did you have your poster professionally designed, or did you do it yourself? And sort of, did you have a kind of strategy behind the poster to try and create one that's highly converting?
Hmm. Well, do you know where I understood the importance of having a good clickable poster? It was
Mm.
from your good self, sir. So your mastery of distribution film course is something that I watched, and because I was like a sponge and I was absorbing all the information I could, and I talked with several people about posters, and I had a couple of designs, and I knew that simplicity was the key here. You know, simple image, large enough text to read, with a punchy name of your film as well. The days ahead, big writing, guy in a gas mask, nuclear explosion in the background. Not too much detail. I knew that if I went with the kind of head salad kind of method for a poster, it's going to look messy. And I just took examples of just looking at all of the big films, big successful production films, studio films, and they're all very simple posters, you know. And so I just followed that example. Make it simple, make it clean, make the text big enough to read, and make sure you've got the key art for it in all the right types and ratios that IndieRights require. And I think what I didn't do is test the poster. um, I had a couple of different posters which I showed to people, so I did that human test, but I didn't quite um, do the meta test where you test your poster on meta. I skipped that because I couldn't exactly work out how to do it, but I was quite confident. I thought this poster is clean. It's bright. It's clear. And what I did actually, I took a screenshot of an image of films from Tubi and Amazon Prime. And I then took my poster, shrunk it down in size, and I placed it over one of the other movies in the big window of all the movie posters. And just to see what it looked like on Tubi, what it would look like on Amazon. And that's how I worked out that that this is going to look all right on these
Yeah.
platforms. It's going to look clickable.
That is such an amazing test, and I've started doing
Yeah,
that
yeah.
lately as well. Just taking a screenshot of Amazon, taking a screenshot of Tubi, where you see your poster, going into the category, the genre of
Yes.
your film, and putting your poster amongst the 50 posters that are right there on the
Yeah,
page.
yeah.
And that's such a great way of seeing, does my poster stand out? Does it compare well to the other films? Because most people, when they're picking a film these days to watch, they scroll through hundreds of posters. You need something that's going to stand out. And another test that I love to do, and this is a perfect one as well. But what I love to do is to download the image of the poster, put it on my phone, put it to about a quarter of the size of my phone screen, put the phone about an arm's length away, and then look at it.
Yes.
And that's the size roughly that people will see, or because we need to stop calling it a poster. It's a thumbnail. It's not a poster. It's not a massive blockbuster poster
Yeah.
that you see in a cinema. It's a thumbnail. It's the size of your thumb. So the second you start adding smaller text and images and a collage, no one's going to be able to see any of that. It's just going to look
That's right.
messy.
I did the same thing. I looked at it on my phone, on my big TV at home, and on my laptop. So I just looked at it on all size screens to make sure that I can read it on the phone, yeah, I think that poster was instrumental in the high viewing numbers that my film has had. It was released on the 10th of August, and so the third quarter of 2025 ended at the end of September. I've since had the report back for that first month and a half, and and yeah, I was fearing the worst. But when I looked at the spreadsheet and I saw my film on the line and looked down to the Amazon Prime column, I had to like do a double take because I didn't actually believe that it had done as well as it had. It's quite impressive, really. I found that it's done so well in that first month, and I think that was because it was trending. In the middle of September, one of my cast called me and said, "Your film's trending on Amazon." So that was great to see trending because I didn't know what trending meant. I assumed it meant it's getting some quite viewer numbers. So then I started looking into AI to find out what does trending actually mean on Amazon in terms of viewing numbers? And the answer is that it's not known the exact viewing numbers that trending means on Amazon Prime, but it usually means numbers around 300,000 to millions of views. So obviously, as soon as I looked at that information, I thought, wow, this is great news. It was only trending for about 4 or 5 days before it dropped off, but I think that was enough to get those high viewer numbers. I wouldn't like to speculate actually on the number of viewings because some of the viewings that it had may have been uh, on TVOD, pay per view, and the others, probably the vast majority of them, were included with Prime viewings. And I haven't yet discovered which were TVOD viewings and which were included with Prime viewings. But I know it must be a lot to have got the good amount of revenue that this film has in the first month and a half. Now, my second report will be for Q4 of 2025, and that will be October, November, and December, and that will include Amazon Prime, Tubi, and now YouTube as well. So I'm hoping it's as good. But when you release a film, you assume that it's going to get a lot of viewings at the start, and then it will drop off. So I'm not sure how it's going to go. Is it going to keep getting high numbers of viewings, or is that revenue going to go right down right from the end of the first quarterly report? So we'll have to wait and see. And it's that moment every 3 months where you get to find out if a lot of people have been watching your film or not.
Indeed. And that's by the way, the massive difference between Film Hub and IndieRights, and a pro of Film Hub. And by the way, there are many pros of IndieRights over Film Hub. But one of the pros of Film Hub is when your film is released on Amazon, you get daily numbers. When your film is released on Tubi, you get daily numbers of
Yeah.
how well it's performing. So that means if you start running some paid advertising, the next day whether the numbers are good or not.
I wish I could
So
see that now. I would like to
it
see
is
daily
interesting.
numbers. Yeah.
And on that note, so can you tell us a little bit about the report that you get from IndieRights, how it looks like? First of all, just to point out for everyone else listening, IndieRights is quite famous for doing something unorthodox, which is they don't just show you your numbers, they show you everyone's numbers of the films that they distribute. So you get to see how your film compares with all other films on their catalog. Which is very, very transparent for a distribution company
It
because
is
most
very.
distribution companies keep that very, very secret. So can you tell us, like, did you, for example, Amazon Prime in your title, do you just get the revenue? Do you also get the number of minutes streamed or any kind of other information that you can action? Is it broken down by territory and so on? And also, if you're comfortable, do you mind sharing what kind of numbers you had or in what kind of ballpark?
Yeah. I was actually surprised as well that you can see everybody else's films that they have, because you can look at how well others are doing, or how not well they're doing compared to yours. And I think there's a lot of trust with that. trusting that all of the filmmakers, and I think IndieRights have about 1,000 films on their books, don't go and share or divulge this information. And I think we all have to hold that integrity of yes, we can know what another film is earning, but we keep that to ourselves, and that's kind of the rule that IndieRights want to impose. Look, this is highly confidential information, and so I wouldn't divulge that, but I can divulge information about my own. My associate's film, which is another British film called Edge of Extinction. Now that's a great film, and it's made by a British production company called Hundy Gilbert Media, and so I was able to see their film, and they're able to see mine. So when I got my first report, I got a text from Andrew Gilbert, who's the director of their film Edge of Extinction, and he said, "Great, congratulations, your film's done really well." So he told me before I told him how well my film was doing, and he said it's done very well, especially for that first quarter. So I was happy with that. Now, the spreadsheet itself will have search by producer, search by title, and I find it had lots and lots of categories you can search on. But I found the only really interesting one that I wanted to see was search by title, because that's the only place I could scroll down alphabetically and find my film the days ahead. And then you go across and you can see vertical columns, Amazon Prime revenue, Tubi revenue, Foursome TV revenue, and lots of other ones which I don't even know. And you can look along the spreadsheet what you got from each platform, and then it'll give you a total at the end, and nice and transparent. It will say total revenue and IndieRights royalty, and then the total that's left for me or for the filmmaker. So it's very nice and transparent and reassuring to see how it's laid out. You know, that's great. But I think there's more information in the report than I have actually seen. What I'm trying to do is look at Amazon Prime and see if I can find out viewing numbers and demographics, etc., etc. But I haven't been able to find out that information as yet, because it may be that I'm just not experienced with looking at the data. But at first glance, I've not been able to find that viewing number data, only the revenue, and that my film has earned in the first month and a half, which was, ready for the numbers, which was $17,000 in the first
Wow,
in the
that's
first
amazing.
month and a half. Yeah, great. And so that's just Amazon Prime, and I hope IndieRights don't mind me divulging that information. As long as I'm not divulging anybody else's information, I think that's fine. So that's a great first month and a half, isn't it, on Amazon Prime? Especially when you consider that Amazon Prime may be paying a cent an hour, or just a couple of pence an hour. And if you look at that and you base that on included with Prime views only and not TVOD views, that equates to over 1.5 million views. I don't really know if my film has got 1.5 million views, but it may be over 1 million.
Okay, so this is really interesting, and it's a little bit like I expected from. So, because I'm just looking over here at where your film is available. So it's available on Prime Video, or included with Prime in the UK. It's only available to rent and buy in the US.
Yes.
And then I was looking sort of, okay, you have about 431 IMDb rankings, and I was sort of comparing it to some titles that I've distributed and so on. And I can tell you that you've probably made about 80% of your revenue from TVOD from the US.
Okay.
So the majority of that money has come in from the US from TVOD.
That's interesting.
The way that I know that is because I have some films included with Prime in the UK, and even with some that get millions of streams, that doesn't translate to much revenue. So it's really the TVOD aspect. And by the way, the SVOD that included with Prime, that fuels Amazon's algorithm to show your film that's available to rent and buy. The film that's available to rent and buy, you rarely make much money in the UK, but in the US, there's quite a market for indie low budget films on Amazon. So that's probably where the majority of the revenue is coming from, would
Yes.
be my educated guess.
Oh, very good. So it may be more like in the hundreds of thousands of views, but with the majority of them being TVOD views.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because it's different in the UK to the US. I had to understand that people that watch indie films don't like paying for them. That's what Linda Nelson from IndieRights told me, and she was so right, because we had it on TVOD first, and then it immediately switched to included with Prime. And I felt that, hey, it's included with Prime too soon. We haven't had a TVOD window, and therefore nobody's going to watch it because people are not wanting to pay. And I did get some bad reviews initially, as you know, why I don't expect it. People commenting, I don't expect to have to pay, but people want everything for free. Everything has to be for free. And so I realized this, and Linda Nelson was quite right that people don't like paying to watch indie films when they already subscribe to a platform. So I very quickly, encouraged her to, or I asked her to, please, let's get it back on subscription. And it did in the UK. And that's when the viewing numbers really went up, when as soon as it was included with Prime. So I wanted the same thing to happen in the US, but it doesn't work quite the same way apparently, and it remained on TVOD, despite me really wanting it to be included with Prime. But I think in America, in the US rather, they will select, they will decide whether it goes to included with Prime or not, rather than we decide whether to put it on included with Prime or not. So I'm not too
Yeah.
sure. I mean, it works differently in the UK to in the US.
So the US Prime Video tends to be more selective with the included with Prime versus the UK,
Yeah.
generally speaking, because again, in the UK, not many people buy and watch indie films on Prime Video, but they will if it's for free. Whereas in the US, again, you can make much better revenue numbers if it's sold and rented, which is also probably, Prime Video is partially doing it because they want to make sure that only the best films are included, for example, in
Yes.
SVOD,
Yeah.
and partially because they also want you to generate the most money, because that way they generate the most money.
Yeah. I thought,
So
when I saw it had become trending in the UK, I thought, oh wow, it's trending. Surely this could give feedback, which could make the US side of things say, hey, look, this is trending. This is a popular film in the UK. Let's put it on included with Prime in the US. But that never happened. But yeah, I'm still happy, obviously, anyway, with the results.
yeah. Well, that's it's all really interesting. So I had a short film anthology that a couple of weeks ago made it to number 6 on the top 10 movies
Yeah,
on Prime
merch.
Video
Yeah.
UK, and that film, great numbers in the UK. We're yet to find out how that actually translates to revenue, because for us it takes about 3 months, 3 to 4 months before we know how much minutes are streamed and how many individual viewers and so on. But before we find out how that translates to revenue, it takes about 4 months, because there's various different algorithms where Prime Video decides whether to pay you 1 cent per hour streamed to 12 cents per hour
I
streamed,
see. Yeah.
depending on
Okay.
different things.
Right.
Um, Now, that said, that film was only included in TVOD in the US, um, and yeah, and I assume the majority of money will come in from TVOD US, even though we were in the top 6 films on SVOD in the UK. The other thing is the US is just a much bigger much bigger market. So we've released another sci-fi short film anthology about a week later, which was also doing quite well, but definitely not in that. It was released on Amazon US SVOD, and it was also doing very well there. It was nowhere near the top 10 in the US, but it actually had much higher viewing numbers than the film in the UK, which was in the top 6. So the US market is just way, way bigger. And I presume that about 90 to 95% of your revenue from this film will come in from the US market.
See. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, another good thing to look at is your movie meter. So when you release your film, you can keep an eye on your movie meter on IMDb Pro. And when I first started looking at the movie meter a few weeks after The Days Ahead was released, it was around 3,000. And I thought, well, is that good? Is 3,000 good? It sounds like a quite large number. And having a little bit of a Google of that told me that, yeah, actually 3,000 is very good for an indie film. And then it got down to 990. So that's as high up the charts as it went to the 990th most popular film. But apparently, to get a film in the top 1,000 is quite exceptional.
It
And
is.
I think that's solely down to the film's topical relevance. I made a film about a present day attack on the United Kingdom, where everybody gets the emergency alert on their phone. It is all very topically relevant. In the UK as well, there was some emergency alerts testing done during September. And I thought, right, well, this is great. Let's hook on to this. They're going to do a test alert. So on the morning of the test alert, well, I made and prepared an edit of the parts of my film, no more than about 10, 15 seconds long, the parts of the film where where the characters get the phone alert on their phones. And I made a little edit of that, 10, 15 seconds, and I had it ready to press a button. And on the morning of the emergency alert test in the UK, I posted it, and I got nearly 500,000 views that day, in the
Wow.
next few days. Yeah, just because I'd hooked on to something that was going to be seen by everybody in the UK. So,
Mm.
so that went viral on TikTok, because it was in everybody's minds on that day. So
That's incredible. Yeah, and I think more filmmakers need to start thinking about how can they tap into trends that are existing, how can they capture the attention, or how can they figure out where the attention already exists
yeah.
and how they can get into the center of that rather than just trying to build attention out of nothing. Um, can you tell me a little bit more about your social media promotional strategy for the film? So aside from that video, what else did you do to try and capture people's attention? And also, can you let me know what is your TikTok?
It is at RVA Synergies Productions. Yeah. And everything is on there from about a year before we released the film. So
That's interesting.
about a year before I released The Days Ahead, I started
Hmm.
um, posting short videos, always reels, never photos. No one really looks at photos so much. I always post full portrait mode reels, and always post that reel of whatever it is that you're doing towards the film. Post it on the 4 platforms: TikTok, Insta, Facebook, and YouTube Shorts has become very good now. So every reel I created, oh, this is us filming in Gloucester prison, and getting ready to film this, or some behind the scenes shots without giving too much away. Everything to do with the film that could be made into a short reel, I made into a short reel, and I posted it on all 4 platforms. But the key to that is to post them individually on those 4 platforms. Don't just make one Instagram post and then just share it. Make 4 individual reels, because when you use the platform's captions, etc., and their music, that will push your reel much more than if you're just sharing a reel that's had the captions made in Insta and then you share it on TikTok. No, get your basic reel and upload it on all 4 of the platforms with their captions, their text, and their music, and that will push them all individually.
It would be so interesting to see on the day that you got the 500,000 views, whether
Yeah.
you had a big spike in viewership on that
Yeah, that
particular
was
day.
crazy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I had somebody say, they sent me a message, "You've gone viral, mate." I was, "Oh,
Yeah.
wow." And and that was in the middle of September, and I still get notifications on an almost daily basis. So and so liked your video, and I'm thinking it's still that same reel that made it to nearly 500,000 views from back in September. People are still looking at it now. And it's almost has lost its relevance now, but it's still around. And so I
Yeah.
keep posting new content. For a while, I was getting 60, 70,000 views on a reel. Now I've gone a bit back down to what people refer to as TikTok jail or Instagram jail. I'm back down to now a few hundred views or a few thousand on my reels. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I stopped posting so regularly. You really do have to keep it up, and you have to do it, and it's a lot of work. And I know some filmmakers that are beautiful filmmakers, they're going to make spectacular films, but they really hate the social media side of it, and they're not going to want to do that. Whereas I'm quite a chatty person. So
Yeah.
I like making little videos, and I like posting content. And so I kind of enjoy doing it. But even for me, sometimes it's exhausting because I think, oh no, I haven't posted for a few days. I've got to make something else now. And it becomes like a pressure on you. It's like, do you want people to see your movie or not? If you do, you've got to keep posting content about your movie. And as I've learned from a number of sources, a movie is a movie, but what they really want to know is about you. Like it's like Linda Nelson from IndieRights will tell you, you are your movie. You know, and so it's a lot about the filmmaker and how they're making it, and all of their efforts and why they're making it, and what you're really interested in. What's the point of this film, and why are you making it? And people want to know that, you know. And
Mm.
if you post some videos with yourself in, with your movie poster in the background, they seem to do better than videos without you in, because people like to put a face to the name. And so this is um, all this posting was encouraged by my wife as well, and she's a really big TikTok and Instagram poster with lots of viral reels with the craft, the crafting stuff that she makes, and she was really my social media guru. To be honest with you, she expressed to me the importance of continuing, its consistency. If you want to start going viral with your reels, you've got to keep doing it. You can't just post one and then not say anything for 2 months. You've got to keep it going.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think the reason why I love the age in which we live in right now, like 2026, is because I feel like everything has become a lot more democratized. In the past, you wouldn't be able to get, 500,000 views or millions of views or even hundreds of thousands of views unless you had hundreds of thousands of followers. The incredible thing about this TikTokification of social media is that the algorithms are purely looking at the engagement on your video rather than the number of followers. Your followers are meaningless these days. Whether you've got a million followers or whether you've got one follower on TikTok, your each individual video will be judged by the same metrics.
Yes. Very
The
good.
only thing that the people with the million followers have is their videos are better. They're better optimized, but there's absolutely nothing that's making their videos be boosted or shown to more people. And I think the consistency is absolutely key because the algorithm learns who your audience is and who they should push that video to, which is really important. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned your wife. My fiance is also an influencer on TikTok, and she'll have some videos that will have a couple hundred views, and then she'll have some that will have 10 million views.
Yes.
And that happens for every single influencer, even if you have, and every single TikTok account, even if you have millions of followers, you might have one video that will get 500 views.
It's crazy. My
Um,
my wife is the same. She's got one video which got 5.5 million views, and she's like, "What? It's not even anything. It's just like one of my worst videos. It's just something that's clicked and it's caught a wave, and it's just gone on and on. And she tells me the number of views she gets, and I'm thinking this is ridiculous. So I'm happy to get like 1,000 views on something, and she's got millions. And she says yes, but it's not important. It's nothing. It's just a couple of seconds. So the viewing time in minutes isn't much. But I'm always surprised at these huge number of views that she gets. And I thought if my film had 5.5 million views, gosh, I would be laughing, wouldn't I?
yeah, yeah. Well, that's really interesting on the social media side. And now the other thing that IndieRights is quite famous for is they like to teach all the filmmakers whose films they're distributing how they can better promote and market their films. So correct me if I'm wrong. You joined a private Facebook group with all the other people on IndieRights, and you got this 50-page booklet which teaches you everything about kind of film marketing. Is there any other kind of important information that you feel like you've learned from that community that you felt was, can be attributed to the success of your film?
It was very valuable, actually, that group, IndieRights Filmmakers Group, because I knew I had to put the work in to get some reviews. So I offered myself up. Yes, I'll watch and review your film. You watch and review mine. And doing review exchanges is actually very valuable for getting IMDb reviews and Amazon reviews. But you've got to put the work in. If somebody's got a full-time job, which isn't relating to their movie, and they've released a movie, they're not necessarily going to have time to watch lots and lots and lots of other people's indie films. But I knew I had to do it. If I wanted them to watch my film and do an IMDb review, I had to watch their film and do an IMDb review. And so that group was very valuable for primarily review exchanges, but it was also good to learn from other people's films and to see this vast array of wonderful creations that people make, and it's just a great world to be involved with anyway. Indie filmmaking, and I felt genuinely altruistic in that I wanted to help them, and then they wanted to help me. So it's very useful to do. I would advise anybody to do as many review exchanges as you can. And that kind of moves us on to the subject of reviews, because you've got to take the rough with the smooth, as you know.
Mm,
And so when my film was trending on Amazon, I thought, great, this is great viewing numbers. But with great viewing numbers comes great criticism.
absolutely.
Yeah, and so I've realized that having seen bad reviews for mine and lots of good reviews for mine, it resonates for the target audience. It resonates with them, which is the emergency preparation community. Emergency preppers like the film, and overwhelmingly it's been well received. But other people that they're not really into the genre, they didn't give it such good reviews. And I realized that it's all about expectations. Once my film became viewable on YouTube, I was dreading it. I thought, YouTube is going to be the worst. You're going to have lots of trolls. There's going to be appalling comments, and people are really going to attack me, and it's going to be really bad. And then something unexpected happened. There was a lot of love for my film on YouTube. And I thought, this is great. This is the complete opposite of what I thought was going to happen. And then it made me realize something quite important, that it's all about expectations. If somebody watches a film that's free of charge to watch on YouTube and it was okay, they watch it till the end, they'll say, yeah, that was quite good. Yeah, I'll post a nice comment. Yeah, a thumbs up, and yeah, good film. But if you have your film trending on Amazon and it's being recommended to a big viewing audience, it better be good. And when it doesn't meet their expectations, they then feel compelled to go and leave a bad review. And so basically, if they're not expecting much, they leave a nice review. If they're expecting a lot, they leave a bad one. And
Yeah, and I think it's so true that when your film is on YouTube, people are expecting an indie film, right?
mm,
Now, for example, for our Anthology merge, when we got to number 6 on Prime Video, oh my God, the
amazing.
comment that started to come in
Oh yeah.
because we kicked Aquaman off the top 10
Yeah.
chart, right? Like we were at number
Amazing.
6 when Interstellar was in number 9, right? Like we were amongst those films. So when people were clicking, they were expecting a £100 million blockbuster, right? Like it was, and they were seeing this is a low budget indie short film anthology. And so the reviews that came with that were just, some of them were just awful, where people were so angry and so upset that this wasn't a blockbuster, or that it was even a short film anthology, because, they didn't really look into what they were watching until they started.
Yes.
And I was distributing that. So I didn't have this personal attachment to each individual film or the comments. But I can imagine that that would sting for all the directors
Yeah, you have
involved.
to be tough, you
And
know. And
yeah,
when I first started getting some bad reviews, um, actually, I wasn't that worried because I was also getting nice reviews as well. So the target audience liked it because of all of the technical information contained within the film, which I took great pride in composing all of this accurate technical information, which I wanted to convey. And then I had a lot of comments such as, "What is this? Who funded this? Did the government fund this? This is just I was expecting like I was expecting like the Book of Eli or something, and it's just another public service announcement." And a lot of comments like, you know, this is just like a public information film. And I didn't actually mind that because it kind of is. I know it kind of it was always intended to be a kind of public information film, so I didn't mind so much. And then a lot of other comments are just boring. You know, and you get a wide range of comments, and then you get a lot of lovely reviews. From one US viewer said that they were so moved by the last film that, you know, that their wife was crying, and you know, and it's really great to get that because it's really reassuring that you know someone likes it.
yeah,
And
yeah,
isn't it funny how when it stopped trending on Amazon, all of the nastiest, worst reviews just kind of ended.
yeah,
So with great viewing numbers comes great criticism. And
yeah.
as you
The
mentioned in
expectation
one,
is low.
yeah, as you mentioned in one of your other videos, um, it's not a bad thing to get bad reviews, because if you're getting a lot of views, some of them are going to be bad. And if you're getting a lot of bad reviews, usually means you're getting a lot of reviews, which means you're going to make some money back on your film.
Yeah, exactly. My favorite bad comment was someone asked on one of our trailers, "Where is this available?" And somebody replied, "In a garbage can near you." And I thought that was actually pretty funny. That was a good one. I'll give you guys that one.
Yeah, yeah. Some of them are quite cutting, and the lengths that people go to write such a savage review of your film is quite incredible. And but you can tell by some of the writing on IMDb that these are writers that expect a high level of film, and they are a certain type that will review several films on IMDb, and they have high expectations. But for the vast majority of people that might watch your film or my film, they don't even know what IMDb is. The amount of people I tried to actually get to review on IMDb, almost everybody you ask, "What's IMDb?" They don't know, they don't care, you know. And if you watch a film and you just think, "Yeah, that was okay, next," you know, "It was all right," they don't. I mean, how many times have I ever in my life watched a film and said, "Oh yeah, that was quite good. Oh, I'd better go to IMDb and write my review." Never. Never. And I think nobody does that. And I think the people that do go and leave reviews on, particularly on IMDb, are people that have higher expectations, and are more apply a craft to their savagery of their reviews. And I expect a lot of them quite enjoy it as well, ripping a film apart.
Do you know what? I very recently made a LinkedIn post about it, and I did a screenshot of all of our negative reviews, and I sort of, gave my opinion on it, and quite a lot of filmmakers kind of commented. And the overarching theme of those comments was that, first of all, it's a little bit as you mentioned, the IMDb reviews mainly come from other filmmakers because
Yes.
they're the ones
Yeah.
who know to go to IMDb, right? Most people in the general public, they don't quite know what IMDb is. They don't have an account to leave a
No.
written review and so on.
And people don't
And
like
you,
making another login and another account number.
yeah.
They're like, "Yeah, I'll do that," and then they never do.
Yeah. And then with that, what comes is that the majority of the time, the nastiest IMDb reviews come from other indie filmmakers who are just a little bit frustrated that their film is not up there, right? And
It's
then,
funny you should say that, because one of my associates in the UK who has a film on Prime, they said that I can guarantee you, they told me, that some of your worst reviews will be from people who know you. And I thought, "That's terrible." And I said, "Well, I hope not. I don't like to think that." But I think what he meant is people that know of your film or have their own films, or like you say, there's a little bit of
yeah.
a feeling towards, you know, perhaps, you know, this needs to be taken down a level or two. And I
Yeah.
understand that. I take it. This is my first film anyway, The Days Ahead, and I took it, and I was hurt for a while, but from some of the nasty things that people said. But when those nasty reviews kind of stopped, when it wasn't trending anymore, and especially when it went to YouTube, I was just my spirits were just lifted. You know.
Yeah. I'm sure that seeing those revenue figures also lifted your spirits a little bit after
Yeah,
that.
well, they certainly did, and I would advise to anybody that's making a film, why are you making a film? Are you making a film because you just want to be creative and you want to make your masterpiece, or are you making a film that is a product and you want to get some revenue back on? Because I think that there's a difference, isn't there? We all make a film because of the love of it and the passion of making it, but ideally we all want to break even and make back what we spent on it, so that it can inspire us to make another film, and that's what we all want to do. But there's this whole world of work that you have to do to achieve that, and it's not just making the film; it's everything else, from poster design to all of the work with reviews and social media and quality control, and it's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
as you know.
Yeah. Indeed. Indeed. Terry, thank you so much for sharing all of this information, for being so open and honest, for, I think, showing a lot of indie filmmakers that there is a way to make your own film and make short films, turn them into features, make some actual money out of
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
even if it's your first one. So thank you for going into all this detail, sharing all of this. Um, and final question: what's next for you? Are you planning on making another film, or are you going back to the day job?
I'm not giving up my day job, but yeah, I am writing another feature-length film. I've completed Act One so far, and the structure for the rest of the film. So I will keep writing that. Sometimes you feel creative and you want to write when you get good ideas. Other times you don't feel like it, and so I'm not going to rush this one. I am going to just write it in my own time, and I'm going to get a lot of eyes on it, and I'm going to go back and forth until I've got that script as good as it can be, and only then, if I feel it's worth making, I will make it. I'll do a lot of things differently to my first film, but that's all just about learning, isn't it? If you take up painting, your first painting is unlikely to be your best one. And the only thing is with movies, we've got what we've shot. Whatever's in the can, that's what we've got. Then it's usually beyond economic viability to go back and reshoot all the time. So you have to just move on to the next project and just get better each time. So yes, I do hope to make another feature.
Great, great. Well, once again, I'm gonna thank you so much again for joining me. I'm gonna
For having
put
me.
the link to your film as well in the notes below for anyone who would like to watch it. But again, thank you so much for joining me here. It was really wonderful speaking with you.
It was great to be here. Thanks a lot.